We're going to kick off with the lovely Jo, who last time I spoke was on a bus in Spain looking at vineyards, and I was like, I'm in the wrong startup, if that is what other people are doing. So thank you so much, obviously, for coming. We're going to have two other speakers next, and like I said, then we'll go into a Q&A. So please give Joanna a huge round of applause.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And looking forward to hearing your story. So yeah.
Fantastic. Super. Thank you so much for having me here, and thank you for coming. I'm very excited about it. So what I'm going to be talking about today is my startup that I'm still building called Verasogno, and it's focusing on AI in wine. A little bit of introduction about me. I have spent years building my career in consulting, in data science and in advanced analytics. And then at some point I have decided that it is a time right now to just get back to my spark of interest that I've discovered during my Erasmus in Portugal and just start doing anything in wine. Now, how does it look in practice? So this is the proper wine intro. What my friends think I do. My friends think that I'm just traveling around the world, visiting the most beautiful vineyards and just having really good fun. What my parents think I do. My parents think that I'm just dining and wining every single day. What society thinks I do? Well, everyone is focusing on AI, hence this is wine made by AI. It was actually made by ChatGPT 4.0, so they were, one of the wineries were using the LLMs to tell them how they should make wine, and this was the effect. It wasn't necessarily too bad, so I would say the result was achieved. What my clients think I do, so I'm focusing on heavily very AI, machine learning, but also techie applications in the vineyards as well, and therefore all of the autonomous drones and spraying is part of the things that I actually advise on as well. What I think I do, I think what I'm speaking a lot about AI and why it matters in wine, what is very important, how to build the strategy around it, why you should use AI, etc. And what I actually do is this lovely latest dinner from Spain. I'm drinking the wines that are 20 years old and enjoying it as much as I can. So we're going to start with how does the wine world works, because this tends to be a topic everyone is interested in and not everyone knows how complicated it gets. So from the beginner level, we have a winemaker who is making a wine. To make wine, we need vineyard because we're picking up the grapes. Then we are making the wine, so we are moving to winery and the production phase. And in winery, there are many different processes that are happening to change these grapes into juice and then finally into wine. Then wine goes into any of the points of sales like supermarket or wine shop or a restaurant. And finally, it reaches the consumer. This is the beginner level of wine. Very simple, kind of like we know what's going on. And then we go to a bit more advanced beginner level. And this is where it all gets very complicated, because once you have winemaker on the left-hand side, you realize that in the vineyard, it's really an agriculture venture. So you have to dedicate a lot of time for farming. There are also options for tourism. You really need to figure out the way how to have a cash flow, because with wine, unfortunately, you are not receiving money immediately. You are waiting for this money, quite often several years, to actually get any cash coming in back to you. Then you have production. During the wine production, you are also bounded by the regional appellations, which are very, very specific and are not allowing you to do what you want to do. So once you are going to sign up for the certain appellation that gives you potentially a bit more appeal with the consumer, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can do whatever you want. You need to follow the laws. So you need to follow certain grape variety that this appellation is allowing. You need to age this wine in the barrel for the 2 to 4 years to achieve certain level that this appellation is describing. You are investing quite a lot to be part of this appellation. And then winemaking itself is a chemistry. So you basically are figuring out how to feed the yeast to produce the alcohol, and then what are the different flavors and aromas that you want to get through once the final product is achieved. Then once you have the wine existing, you have to import or you have to export the thing. So you can utilize ship cargo, you can utilize plane cargo, you can utilize inland. The main requirements for the wine is it cannot shake. So there are a lot of things that you need to pay attention about. Then you have to store it in the warehouse at certain temperature, with certain level of humidity, with the really not, what's happened? Oh, it disappeared. Oh no, oh, here we go. I was about to say, with not great access to light, and this was all black, so that was perfect. Basically, wine doesn't like the UV, so you need to hide wine from the light. Then there is also an option of of buying wine in bond, and this is adding a little bit of cash into upfront to the winemaker. So I don't know whether you know Bordeaux or Burgundy. They are selling their wines in bond, so you're buying them en primeur, so before they are going to be released. Given the appellations that I have just mentioned before, there are certain rules, and these producers are basically selling their wines before it is ready. And then this wine is stored in the warehouse, for which you also need to pay, etc. So I hope you're following already that there are quite a lot of data points that are happening in between, and how to actually, how complex it might get. Then we are moving into the distribution part, so every single point of sale where you can get the wine. And then we are also moving to the consumer, so there is an intent for a purchase. So you need to think about, what does consumer want to do with that wine? Do they want to get drunk with friends? Do they want to celebrate something? Or do they want to give it for someone as a gift? So all of this, all together, is actually adding quite a lot of data and AI. There is a lot of data that already is being collected, and there is a lot of information and genuinely insights that winemakers and producers and the government bodies are utilizing to actually make decisions. Now, you could think that, hey, they are already doing that, so what is actually the problem? Well, the problem is, ta-da! We're going to start with that. Raise the hand if you already use ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini. Fantastic. Do you feel overwhelmed by AI? Fantastic. Does your business struggle with fragmented data? Exactly. You're unsure where AI actually create value for you. Yep. You are worried that AI is going to take over your job. And then, do you know what data science is? Yeah. Some of you, yes. Some of you know. And this is exactly what is happening. So the problem really is coming to that part. When you see the news, and when you are a winemaker and a producer, you start to be, is that my bin alarm? Yes, probably. It sounds like, yeah, today is the bin day, so I need to remember that. So what is happening in the world is we have quite a lot of information steering in a direction that is not necessarily accurate, nor informative, nor assuring for anyone who is reading that. And if you can imagine that wine industry is a very traditional industry that wasn't necessarily relying on data at all, you start to, if you put yourself in their shoes, you're going to realize that they are scared. They are really scared. And because of that, I'm going to skip that. We know that this is a hype. This is the reality. So AI usually is applied in all of the processes, in everywhere where they can understand the data, in every opportunity where there is an opportunity for automation. And we know that if the data is garbage, then AI is going to only highlight the garbage. So there is nothing that will allow us to actually get a value of AI if the data is rubbish. And we've already seen they collect a lot of data. So you have to see why this data and why application of AI for the data is really valuable. There are rising productions and the logistics cost. There are consumers that are drinking less wine and nobody knows why. There is climate change, and then there is a huge harvest uncertainty. So you don't necessarily know what is happening and what is going to happen with the grapes that you are growing. Energy prices are going up. You cannot really estimate how much you should ask for the bottle of wine. Cost of living, again, consumers are not willing to spend more money, etc. So all of this information is giving us, all of these situations is giving us a lot of opportunity where AI can bring value for the wine, which is mostly in customer and market intelligence, commercial performance, operations flow. And what I have figured out, since I've kind of like did the wine education and the data science, I'm going to do the strategy. So from strategy to action, and what I'm working on with the producers and with the government bodies as well with distributors. I'm working on helping them to understand why do they need to use AI? Is there any use case for AI in the first place? Can we solve it with the data engineering task, or can we solve it through the data analysis, etc.? And I think this kind of like strategy and then mapping up the roadmap is helping them to be more assured and not so scared about the current situation within the Gen AI. And how we are working, so we're basically trying to understand the landscape first. We are then focusing on the proof of concept and showing what is possible. And then finally, we are building the tailored roadmap and executing it if they are fancy. So I'm doing the data and AI strategy. I'm doing the analytics and market intelligence for them. I'm focusing on bringing in the tools that are already existing, but also building the specific tools for their personal needs. I'm doing a lot of workshops, a lot of training about AI, and also editorial and content strategy from the AI perspective. What does success look like? How much more time? Okay, fantastic, because you showed me this and I was like speeding up.
No.
Okay.
About 5 minutes. You got time.
Okay, super. So I've sped up. Let me know if there are any questions. But one of my clients basically were really struggling with the fragmented data, and the story really goes through every single thing that I was facing in consulting, but from the wine angle. So they have had siloed data. They didn't have any collaboration between the customer team and the sales team. They had the customer service team that wasn't talking to the sales team. There is also a role of a buyer who is deciding which wine to bring in. And sales team was not talking to that buyer who was deciding as well. There was no connection in how to run this business. And I was a bit like, how do you manage? Like, how is it working? And more or less, since we've started to collect the data and understand what is the actual wine that customers are buying, what are the wine bottles that customers are coming back with to the customer service because there are some faults in them, what are the current trends in social media that people are following and they would like to try the wine. So this is more or less what we started to do. And once we started to analyze this data, we have then more or less helped them to get, first of all, a holistic view of the customer. So understand what is happening from the beginning up until the end. We have improved the portfolio decisions. So wine buyer was speaking to the customer team and then to the sales team in order to understand what is in stock and what is not in stock, what is preferred and what is not being sold at all. They have reduced manual reporting because we've introduced the, it wasn't a data lake, but I would call it data pond perhaps, where they can access the data and finally understand what is happening, not only through one person's Excel, but through basically Power BI, which was a huge highlight for them. And finally, they've managed to get the new, they spotted the new opportunities on the markets through social media listening. So they were basically able to see the product, and I cannot say which one, but one of the wines from New Zealand were basically changing the sales and the popularity, and they've spotted the opportunity. They have reached out to the producers and they have secured the allocation, and therefore they are actually able to sell it further to the restaurants, so they are receiving more money out of it. The other part of it is more or less cleaning the data. So the other part I was working with, for was the old wine registry. What they are struggling with is they are receiving a lot of text data. So imagine that you have a form and then you have the open text where the winemaker or producer can say whatever they want. And obviously that winemaker or producer who usually don't have an email, they don't have an email even. You can reach them on the phone and they rarely are going to pick up this phone. So trust me, being a winemaker is like a skill to some point. And I think many people who are burned out from the corporate thing, but this is a perfect career. But where I'm going with that is, imagine how they are populating the forms. Obviously, they will put everything in one go into one comment section, and then every single other field is unpopulated. That creates quite a lot of data quality issues, and therefore a bit of a problem with the analysis. So we've kind of like started to work with LLMs and with NLP to extract the data and information, and for them, having a visual representations of what are the data points coming out from the comments were just like eye-opening and like huge improvement. So a very small things that we are doing in the consulting world, like in Big Four or any of the other tech companies, are a really huge improvement for wine. And this is why I thought that my kind of like application of the data science skills and consulting and the wine education is bringing me a new kind of like opportunity to the market. And that's me. I hope it was fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.